Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this Netflix review. The fact that you are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to watch my content really does mean the world to me. Guys, for those of you that are unaware, I review everything that gets released on Netflix. So if you're ever curious about whether a new movie, show, or series is any good, come to my channel and I will let you know. So subscribe if you haven't yet, it would mean the world to me. And let's jump right into my review of Hit and Run, the latest suspenseful thriller that has just been released on Netflix. Yo, this one really got me thinking a lot, and I'll be 100% honest with you and upfront with you. Before I break down the story, I need you to know that this is a slow burn of a series. The pace is incredibly slow for the first few episodes, but then the ante really gets run through the roof and we get a really captivating story that's very, very engaging. So let's jump right into that right now. But ultimately, Hit and Run is about a man searching for the truth behind his wife's death and becomes caught up in a dangerous web of secrets and intrigue stretching all the way from New York to Israel. Ultimately, his wife is unfortunately killed in a hit and run, and while it might just seem like an accident, we very quickly learn that there is so much more to the story. And that is where it gets so incredibly interesting, and that's where I really found myself getting hooked by this series. What also really captivated me about this series were the performances. I would have to say the performances were definitely the highlights of this series. We could really see the emotion that the characters were trying to display. And even though our lead character is quite a stoic man, he's quite a stern-faced man, you can see when he's feeling emotion, he's really feeling that emotion. And it's really paired up with some great cinematography. When we get these emotional scenes, we get these long, beautiful, drawn-out shots that just let the emotion sink in. Ultimately, this isn't a very fast-paced series. As I said, it's a slow burner. But if you just let the emotion come out the screen, you just absorb that. If you just immerse yourself in the story, you can find yourself having a really, really good time, a very engaging time, a very, very fun time. So we've got great performances, some really engaging cinematography, and in a really compelling story that is constantly unraveling, and there's new chapters being opened, and there's new discoveries happening. Every time you feel like you've gotten to a point where there's going to be a massive truth revealed, you just find out that there's a whole nother room of wackiness. So I'm just going to go into, I wouldn't call this a spoiler because it doesn't reveal anything about the story at all, but some might be disappointed to learn that the story isn't concluded by the end of season 1. This is definitely going to go into a season 2. And so there's a lot of information that we don't learn in this series. It feels like it's definitely a cliffhanger because we need to learn more. We want to know more so that the mystery is solved. And we don't get that. So if you're just looking for a quick series that you can sit down and watch, unfortunately, you're not going to get that here because you're going to have to watch another season when it finally gets released. And that for me was a little bit disappointing because I was sitting on the edge of my seat the entire time just waiting. I wanted to know what's going to happen. And then, boom, end of season 1. And it was a tough one. It was a tough one, I won't lie. I don't think I've ever been so disappointed about the story not being concluded within one season before. So since we're heading down the negatives already, let me just bring up something that probably bothered me about the series more than anything else. And that was how dark it was. I'm not talking about its substance or its themes. I'm talking about visually. It's a very dark movie. Even during the day scenes, I really struggled to see what was happening on my monitor. I watched it on my phone, I watched it on my TV, I watched it on a separate screen, trying to see, is it dark because of my devices or is it just dark in general? And it's actually a very, very dark series. When we get these moments of suspense, of action, of thrills, it's very hard to see what's happening on screen sometimes just because of how dark it is. There's a lot of scenes that take place during sunrise or sunsets, and you can see the sun. You can see the sun. But everything in the foreground is still so incredibly dark. Even in the middle of the day, I was finding myself going, has my phone's brightness turned down? No, it just feels like they literally took the opacity of the entire series down, which is really unfortunate because I found myself struggling to watch some scenes. I understand if a scene is supposed to be dark, but when an entire series feels dark, it can become really hard to engage with. And I feel like this was a stylistic choice to show the hard-hitting truths of this story and how this man's life has been absolutely shattered and it's dark and it's gloomy. But as a viewer, it can be very difficult to get truly invested. But at the end of the day, guys, if you love thrillers, if you love suspense, if you'd like to really engage in a story, then I would recommend this series to you. I think Who Killed Sarah, The Stranger, those are Netflix properties that are very similar to this one thematically and stylistically, and ultimately have the same feeling of immersion when you're watching them. So if you were fans of those series, or you are interested in watching those series, then I would also suggest you check this one out. But guys, thank you so much for watching my review. It really means the world to me. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I hope to see you again in another review.